My husband always smiled at his phone but never smiled at me anymore. One night, I snuck a peek and saw hundreds of texts, not quite cheating, but not innocent either. Instead of confronting him, I started texting a friend too. Weeks later, he finally noticed and snapped, "Who's that?" I laughed and whispered, "Just someone who texts me the way you text her." I, 41 female, have been married to Nate, 43 male, for almost 12 years. We live in Austin, Texas. No kids, just a dog named Murphy and 2 lazy cats. From the outside, our life probably looked solid. Good house, decent jobs, dinners out, occasional getaways. But on the inside? We hadn't really been us in a long time. The problem crept in quietly. I didn't notice it right away. Nate started getting really into his phone. He used to leave it on the kitchen counter or in his jacket pocket. Then suddenly, it was always on him. Always face down. Always on silent. At first, I told myself not to be one of those wives. You know, paranoid, insecure, digging through his stuff for no reason. But the thing that started bothering me the most wasn't the phone itself. It was the smile. He'd sit on the couch beside me, phone in hand, grinning. A genuine, teeth-showing smile. The kind I hadn't seen aimed at me in what felt like forever. We could be watching a movie, or I'd be telling him about my day, and suddenly he'd look down at his screen and just light up. Meanwhile, I could talk for 10 straight minutes and all I'd get was a nod. I let it go at first. Told myself I was imagining things. Told myself we were just going through a phase. Work had been stressful for both of us. Maybe we were both tired. Maybe I just needed to be more patient. But something felt off. He started spending more time in the bathroom with his phone. Late nights scrolling TikTok while I lay in bed alone. And I started noticing that he'd take his phone with him even just to get a glass of water. Always in his hand. Always close. One night, I woke up around 1 a.m. I reached over, but the bed was empty. I walked quietly out to the living room. There he was, sitting on the couch in the dark, face lit up by his phone, grinning. My stomach dropped. I stood there watching for a second. He didn't even notice me. Just kept typing, smiling, pausing, typing again. I backed up before he saw me and slipped back into bed. I couldn't sleep. My chest felt tight. My thoughts were spiraling. I stared at the ceiling until I heard him come back in. He slid into bed like nothing happened. I stayed silent. That was the night I decided I was going to look. It took 2 more days before I got the chance. He left his phone in the kitchen while he showered. It buzzed twice. I was standing there with a cup of coffee and my hand just moved. I picked it up. Locked, but I knew his passcode. It's been the same since we got married. Once I was in, my hands were shaking. I didn't find nudes. No hotel receipts. No I love you messages. What I found was worse. There were hundreds of messages. All with one woman, Maya Sunflower. Flirty messages. Inside jokes. Voice notes. Pictures of sunsets. Memes. Stuff he never sent me. Stuff he never shared with me anymore. Things like, "Wish you were here. You get me in ways no one else does. I told her I had to work late tonight, lol." They weren't outright sexual. But they were intimate. And I felt sick. He'd sent her a playlist. My husband. The same guy who said he was too busy to talk about our anniversary plans had curated a whole Spotify playlist for another woman. That hurt more than I can explain. And what got me the most? She called him NATO. I hadn't heard that nickname in years. He used to hate it. But there it was, all over their chat. "Miss you, NATO. Sleep tight, NATO." I put the phone back exactly where I found it. He never knew I saw. I didn't confront him. I didn't scream or cry or throw the phone. I didn't even say a word. Instead, I downloaded an app one hadn't used in over a decade, Telegram. And I typed in a name I hadn't said out loud in even longer, Julian. Julian was someone I had a connection with back in college. We were never officially anything, but there was always this electricity. The kind of bond where a simple hi could mess up your whole day. I messaged him, "Hey. Long time. How've you been?" He replied within 5 minutes. That was the beginning. Julian and I started texting every day. It wasn't about revenge, not at first. I just needed to feel something. Needed to feel seen. He listened. He asked questions. He noticed when I changed my hair. Nate hadn't even commented. And I started to smile at my phone, too. Nate noticed. It had been a few weeks. I wasn't hiding anything anymore. I didn't need to. I was still hurt. Still hollowed out. But Julian made things feel a little brighter. Even if it wasn't right. One night, I was cooking dinner. Phone on the counter. It buzzed. I smiled. Nate came into the kitchen and stood there for a second, watching me. Then, he asked, "Who's that?" I didn't answer right away. I could feel my heartbeat in my neck. He stepped closer. "Seriously? Who is that?" I turned around, looked him in the eye, and said quietly, "Just someone who texts me the way you text her." He looked like he'd been punched. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just kept stirring the sauce while he stood there, completely stunned. He tried to deny it at first. Said it wasn't like that. Said I was overreacting. That he didn't do anything physical. I laughed. Laughed. Because that's what people always say. As if crossing the line is only about what your body does. I reminded him that he was emotionally checked out for months. That I begged for attention, and he smiled at his screen instead of me. He sat down at the table and just kept shaking his head. Like he couldn't believe this was happening. Like I had started it. I asked him one question. "Did you ever plan to stop?" He didn't answer. That was all I needed to know. After that night in the kitchen, things changed. Not in the romantic movie way. Not in a he realized how much I meant to him and chose me way. No. Things got cold. Real cold. He started sleeping in the guest room. Didn't talk to me for 2 full days. Just walked around the house like I was a stranger. Then, on the 3rd day, he sat me down at the dining table. No food, no coffee, just us and the silence. "I've cut it off," he said. "With Maya." I didn't say anything. I told her we crossed a line and that it needed to stop. I blocked her. Still, I said nothing. Because in that moment, I wasn't sure I believed him. Then he added, "I want to work on this. If you do too." I just stared at him. He looked tired. Like he hadn't slept. There were dark circles under his eyes and his jaw kept twitching. I nodded slowly. Not because I was sure. But because I needed to know what we were even saving. If there was anything left. We started couples therapy the next week. It wasn't easy. That first session? Brutal. The therapist, this woman named Rochelle, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense, didn't let us sugarcoat anything. I told her about Maya. He told her about Julian. She didn't take sides. She just asked one question, "Why are you both still here?" And neither of us had a good answer. 2 weeks into therapy, I started getting this weird feeling. Like a gut itch you can't reach. Nate was trying. He was more present. More communicative. But something still felt off. Then one afternoon at work, I'm a dental receptionist, I saw her. A woman walked in. Tall. Curly hair. Nice boots. Tight smile. She looked me in the eye and said, "Are you Nate's wife?" I felt my stomach fall through the floor. "Yes?" I answered, slowly. She nodded. "I'm Maya." I froze. She didn't scream. Didn't cry. She just stood there, arms crossed, and said one thing that nearly made me pass out, "He told me you died." The room tilted. "What?" "He said his wife passed away 2 years ago," she said calmly. "Car accident." He even sent me pictures of a fake grave. I couldn't breathe. He told me he was grieving. Said I helped him get through the pain. I had no words. None. She looked down, like she was embarrassed for me. "I didn't come here to fight. I just thought you should know who you're married to." Then she left. Nate was already on the couch when I got in. Like he knew something was coming. I didn't even take off my coat. "You told her I was dead?" He didn't deny it. Just covered his face with both hands and said, "I didn't know how to end it." I panicked. "So you faked my death?" I yelled. "You told another woman I died? Do you have any idea how insane that is?" He looked up at me, face red, and said, "I wasn't myself." I didn't even believe it while I was saying it. It was like watching someone else. I wanted to throw something at him. Anything. A lamp, a chair, whatever was closest. But I just stood there, shaking. "Did you love her?" I asked. He whispered, "No, I didn't believe him." "Did you sleep with her?" He shook his head. She said she came to town to meet you last month. You told me you had a conference. He didn't respond. And that silence told me everything. The thing is, while Nate was spiraling, Julian was getting more serious. He wanted to visit again. Said he was looking at places in Austin. That he missed talking to me. And the worst part? A tiny part of me wanted that. Wanted to feel chosen. Wanted to feel wanted. Wanted to feel like I mattered to someone. But I didn't know who I was anymore. I was a wife to a man who faked my death to keep an emotional affair going. And I was a woman who texted another man just to feel alive again. I was both. And I hated it. We're still going to therapy. But everything feels cracked. Like nothing can be truly glued back together without seeing where it broke. I don't know if I'm staying. I don't know if I'm leaving. But I do know this. The version of Nate I married? He's not the one sitting across from me in Rochelle's office. And the version of me who forgave quietly and smiled through pain? She's gone, too. After Maya showed up at my job and told me Nate said I was dead, I didn't think it could get any worse. I was wrong. We were still going to therapy. I don't even know why anymore. Maybe because walking away felt too fast. Too final. Like I needed to earn the exit. Like if I left now, people would say I didn't try. So I stayed. But I wasn't really in it anymore. Not the way I used to be. I started keeping a small bag in the trunk of my car. Just in case. Some clothes. A charger. A toothbrush. Some days, I looked at that bag like it was freedom. But the next twist came when I least expected it. I was working from home one day, answering emails on the couch. Nate's laptop was open on the kitchen counter. He usually kept it password locked, but this time he'd left it unlocked while he showered. And again, something in me itched. I didn't want to snoop. But I did. I opened the browser. Just clicked it open, no real plan. And that's when I saw it, a folder on his desktop called Old Receipts. But it wasn't receipts. Inside were screenshots. Dozens of them. Messages. Photos. Snapshots of conversations from WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and even dating apps. Some were from Maya. But most were from other women. Different names. Different cities. Some of the chats were months old. Others had timestamps from last week. He hadn't just been emotionally cheating with one person. He had a system. Each folder had a name. Kara_Minneapolis. Jen_Nashville. Marcy_Tulsa. Every woman had her own chat log. Her own set of photos. Some flirty selfies. Some smiling dog pics. Some innocent, some, definitely not. I sat down hard. This wasn't a one-time emotional connection gone too far. This was recreational lying. I brought it up in therapy. He denied nothing. Didn't even flinch. He just stared at the floor while I told Rochelle what I found. Then he said, I don't know why I do it. It feels like I disappear unless someone wants me. Rochelle asked, why not your wife? He looked at me. I didn't think she wanted me anymore. That almost broke me. Because I did want him. I wanted us. For years I tried. But I wasn't enough. Not for the version of him that needed 5 women telling him he was special. I asked, did you meet any of them? He looked away. Answer me. He whispered, one. My throat burned. Which one? Maya. So it wasn't just messages. I got up and walked out of that session. I didn't even grab my bag. While I was falling apart, Julian had become a part of my daily life. We talked every night. He sent me playlists, voice notes, pictures of him cooking or walking through downtown LA. He wanted me to visit. I told him everything. He never judged me. Never told me what to do. Just listened. And then one night, he asked if I ever thought about starting over. Not just leaving Nate. But moving. Changing cities. Quitting my job. Starting over. That night, I stared at my ceiling for hours. Because a few months ago, that would have felt insane. But now? It felt like oxygen. This next part still messes with my head. A week after that therapy session, Maya messaged me. Not Nate. Me. She said she wanted to talk. Woman to woman. I didn't reply at first. But then, curiosity got me. We met at a coffee shop on South Lamar. I don't know what I expected. A fight? A cry session? What I got was something else entirely. She sat down and slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a printout of a medical bill. Her name. A clinic address in Houston. Date, 4 weeks ago. I looked at her, confused. I was pregnant, she said. I didn't keep it. He told me you were dead. That he wasn't ready to be a father. That he'd lost too much already. I swear, I stopped breathing. She added, I'm not telling you this to hurt you. I think you deserve to know who he really is. She left after that. I sat there for a long time. Just staring at that paper. That night, I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I lay next to him in silence. While he slept peacefully, I stared at the ceiling again. My mind spinning. Not just because of what he did. But because suddenly, I wasn't sure what kind of person I was becoming. I hadn't told Julian anything about the pregnancy. I hadn't told Rochelle. I hadn't even cried yet. I was numb. And the scariest part? I wasn't sure I wanted to fix any of this anymore. After the talk with Maya and the truth about the pregnancy, I stopped pretending. I stopped hoping. I didn't leave right away, but I didn't stay emotionally either. I was just coasting. That week, I told Julian everything. The lies, the cheating, the pregnancy, the fake dead wife story. All of it. He asked me, gently, do you still love him? I didn't answer. Because I honestly didn't know anymore. It felt like the wires between my heart and brain had been cut. I was just floating. Feeling everything and nothing at the same time. Julian said he'd come to Austin. And he did. Nate knew about Julian. I didn't hide it. I told him Julian was coming to town, and that we were going to talk, just talk. He said nothing at first. Then, out of nowhere, he said, if you see him, don't come back. I looked at him, dead in the eye. You buried me in a fake grave. You don't get to give ultimatums. He didn't speak after that. He just walked into the other room and shut the door. Julian came into town 2 days later. We met at a hotel bar downtown. It was nice. Comfortable. Familiar in a way that didn't feel forced. For once, I felt like I could exhale. We talked for hours. But Julian wasn't there for just a casual visit. He told me he was thinking of moving. He'd already started applying for jobs in Austin. Said maybe this was our chance. A fresh start. I stared at him, and all I could think was, what if I'd become just as messy as the man who ruined me? And then came the moment everything cracked open. Nate showed up. He must have tracked my phone. Or maybe followed me. Either way, he came storming into the bar like something out of a movie. People turned. Heads whipped around. Bartenders paused. He walked right up to our table and said loud enough for half the room to hear, this him? This the guy you've been screwing behind my back while crying in therapy? Julian stood up, calm but firm. We're just talking. Nate laughed. Yeah. Sure. Talking. Like I was just talking to Maya, right? My blood ran cold. Everyone was watching now. I felt their stares like heat on my skin. I said, you don't get to cause chaos and then act like the victim. You're no better, he snapped. You ran to another man the second your ego took a hit. I stood up. This isn't about ego. This is about survival. You lied, Nate. Over and over. You told women I was dead. You got one pregnant. You built a fantasy life full of fake grief. And you did it while coming home to me every night like nothing was wrong. He didn't deny it. Again. He just stood there, breathing hard. Julian looked at me and said quietly, let's go. But I didn't move. Not yet. Instead, I looked at Nate one last time and asked the question I'd been swallowing for weeks. Did you ever love me? He blinked. Looked like he wanted to lie. Wanted to soften it. But all he said was, I don't know. That broke me more than any cheating ever could. I turned and walked out. Julian followed. Behind me, I heard people whispering. One woman said, damn. That was brutal. She wasn't wrong. I didn't go home that night. I stayed at Julian's hotel. Nothing happened. We didn't sleep together. We just lay in silence. Side by side. 2 people holding broken pieces. I moved out 3 days later. Took Murphy, left the cats. Nate didn't fight it. Didn't even say goodbye. Maya texted me once more. Just a simple. He did the same thing to me after I found you. Said I ruined everything. Guess we were both just mirrors to his own reflection. I never replied. Julian ended up staying for a few weeks. We went out, we laughed a little, we tried. But eventually, it faded. He wasn't the solution. And I wasn't healed enough to be anyone's new beginning. He left on a Thursday. Kissed me on the cheek and said, "You're stronger than you think. Call me if you ever want to disappear together." I smiled. But I didn't call. I live in a one-bedroom now. Still in Austin. Still working at the same dental office. Murphy sleeps at my feet every night. I started painting again. I still go to therapy, by myself now. The truth is, I don't hate Nate. I hate who he became. I hate who we became. But I also know I let myself rot inside a relationship long before he ever cheated. I learned that emotional neglect is a slow death. That silence can be as brutal as betrayal. That we all have the capacity to hurt when we're hurting. Do I regret texting Julian? No. Do I regret staying after the first lie? Yeah. I do. But I needed to see it through. I needed to know that I tried. That I didn't run at the first bruise. Now I know. I'm not healed. But I'm awake. And that's something.